Bats are critters that tend to freak people out, and I get it. They're flying mice that have been made out to be blood sucking demon babies, and of course, they spread a lot of diseases. But over the skies of Indonesia, it is said to have massive bat like creatures that are not afraid to make man their next meal. Welcome to Cryptid Corner, the series All Things Cryptids, and today we are going to cover both the Ahool and the Orang Bati. The islands of Java and Seram in the Indonesian archipelago have their differences and their similarities. Java is one of the five main islands of Indonesia, with a population of 256.4 million people, home to about 56% of the Indonesian population. Java is also the political, economic, and cultural epicenter of this archipelago. In comparison, the island of Seram is far smaller and is home to about 200,000 people. Seram is far more rural, yet serves as the main island of the Maluku province. But like the other Indonesian islands, they are home to dense jungles and mountainous terrain that is home to several fascinating animals found nowhere else on Earth. And within this wilderness are said to lie beasts that the people of these islands have come to know quite well. I decided to lump the Ahool and the Orang Bati together due to how similar they are and how close they are to one another. Bat Squatch is very similar to these two as well, but it's pretty far from Indonesia and is kind of popped up completely separate of these two, so yeah, that'll get its own video at some other point. But starting with the Ahool, also known as the Apple, it is a massive gray bat-like creature said to call the island of Java its home. The Ahool gets its name due to its howling call, which sounds like Ahool, something like that. They are described as having a large bat-like body, the head of a primate, and the wingspan of about 10 feet, doubling the top bat wingspan held by the giant golden crowned flying fox. Ahools are also said to have very long claws at the end of their forearms, which are used mainly for catching fish, its primary food source. However, they are highly territorial and are not afraid to attack any human encroaching on their riverside territories. Ahools are nocturnal and have been said to stalk humans at night through the canopies above, dropping down on them, holding them in place with their wings, and dealing a fatal bite to the poor soul who stepped into Ahool country. The Orang Bati is similar to the Ahool, but are described as more ape or monkey like in appearance, being a little bit smaller and tending to have a monkey tail. But they are far more sinister. The Orang Bati are said to travel in large colonies, performing night raids where they would attack villages and steal livestock and even babies and small children. Some depictions of the Orang Bati were, kind of gave them that mythical ability that can kill a man just from looking at them. But that got patched out of a lot of versions of the story because it's just kind of fucked up. That's way too broken. The Orang Bati are said to live in the caves in the countryside, where they would bring the spoils of their raids and wait until the next nightfall to do it all over again. The people of Java have been familiar with the Ahool for centuries, but the first documented sightings occurred in the mid 1920s. Dutch naturalist Dr. Ernest Bartels would be exploring the region when, in 1925, he would witness massive flying creatures just as the locals described. 2 years later, while resting in his riverside hut, listening to the sounds of the jungle, he would hear a loud ahoo howl, causing him to grab his torch and pursue the sound down the river in the dead of night. This is actually, I believe that this is where the term atul came from. I think he coined it. Could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read. The story would pick up steam in 1966 when Bernard Heuvelmans would write about it in an article on the Ahool. In said article, a good friend of Ernest Bartels, British writer, biologist, and early cryptozoologist, Ivan T. Sanderson, would liken the Ahool to the Kangamodo of Africa that he personally claimed to witness in Cameroon, which is usually equated to being either a freakishly big bat or a pterosaur. Orang Bati sightings have been told to sailors since the 1500s, emphasizing the brutality of these winged devils. In 1987, a Christian missionary named Tyson Hughes would be on a mission in Seram, and during his stay, he would hear the stories of the Orang Badi, which he would write off. But further into his stay, as he began to grow closer to the locals, the accounts would continue to pile up until he himself was a firm believer. The Orang Badi is lumped in with the Ropen of nearby Papua New Guinea, which is also described as a pterosaur like creature in appearance. Throughout the 90s and early 2000s, sightings of both the Ahool and the Orang Badi have came in, leaving many to wonder what could be out in the jungles of Indonesia. There have been quite a few explanations as to what these two cryptids could be, with some being far more plausible than others, but here on Cryptid Corner, we start with the wildest ones first, and I definitely want to tackle the first one. Due to the frequent comparisons to the Kangamodo and the Ropen, these cryptids are often depicted as pterodactyls who survived the KT extinction and call the jungles of Oceania and some of Africa home. The Orang Badi's preference for nesting in caves is also a quality shared with the Ropen, leading to many lumping the two together due to their close proximity. The biggest problem I have with this theory is that pterosaurs got absolutely decimated by the KT extinction, and it is extremely unlikely that they survived. For starters, even before the extinction, early birds began to swiftly out-niche pterosaurs, especially the smaller ones, forcing them to grow larger in size. On top of this, pterosaurs were extremely light and brittle even for their sizes, meaning the post-impact conditions were far more dangerous to pterosaurs to take flight, forcing them to remain grounded where they would suffer a grim fate alongside the non-avian dinosaurs that probably preyed on them as an easy food source. And even after that, pterosaurs would have had to keep up with about 65 million years of evolution and a whole ass ice age without leaving remains of them anywhere in the world. If pterosaurs were still around, even for just a little bit after, we'd have at least found fossils of them in other parts of the world. Additionally, the whole pterosaur argument kind of falls apart when the creatures are expressly described as ape or bat-like. Regarding the Sanderson account of the Kangamodo, he described it as more bat-like, and he pushed the bat narrative heavily. But on the note of apes, what if a family of primates had evolved flight? It is definitely an interesting idea, and some small primates have uh, been thought to develop the ability to glide, and the colugo, which is a close relative to primates, has involved the ability to glide. But I don't know about something as big as like a chimp or a gorilla evolving flight. It just doesn't seem likely, but hey, I'm down for flying monkeys. That is pretty fucking epic. But the most likely and the most common explanation as what these sightings were misidentifications of the flying foxes, the largest bats in the world. Flying foxes can have wingspans up to 5 feet in length and have a range pretty much all over anywhere around the Indian Ocean, let alone Indonesia. Despite their size, they are not hostile creatures, though, preferring fruits and insects, but they are dangerous in a different way, as they do carry deadly diseases, with that possibly being an inspiration for the whole can kill you just from seeing it legend, but that's a pretty big stretch. They also, like a ton of other bats, prefer to nest in large caves, just like the Orang Badi and the Ropen. I do think that the flying fox sightings are the inspiration for the appearance of these creatures, but what about that Ahool noise? Flying foxes are very squealy and squeaky, not making noises like a large howl like that. This question is swiftly answered once you realize that Indonesia is home to several monkeys, birds, and owls. Bartels even claimed that the Ahool was a bird, making the bird fear even stronger of a likelihood for a secondary or even a primary inspiration of the Ahool, as large birds and owls can look weird as hell at night. The Ahool and the Orang Bati are two similar cryptids that were created by cultures not far apart from one another. The pterosaur narrative is a fascinating one, and I'd like to go down that rabbit hole at some point, maybe around the time I go down the neo-dinosaur rabbit hole, but I think it ignores the ape-like characteristics that are described of these mythical creatures. The flying fox definitely feels like a great match for the appearance, and the vocal match definitely feels like some sort of owl, probably a straggling rock eagle owl from India. Flying foxes in general are a pretty good reminder that sometimes the animals we got can be just as weird as the cryptids of legend. Although, flying monkeys and demon chimps would definitely be something awesome to see in future wildlife documentaries. Just so long as the whole night raids or the river killings things are an exaggeration and that's the real mythical element of them. And that's gonna do it for both the Ahool and the Orang Bati. Yeah, I figured I'd just kind of lump these two together, but differentiate them, kind of dedicate the video to both of them. I hope that no one, kind of felt like one of them got shafted by, just kind of lumping them in together, but they're just so they're just so similar, and, I decided to lump those two. And I didn't include the Ropin or the Kangmodo as like primary focuses because those are kind of more attached to the Neo-Pterosaur, Neo-Dinosaur thing. So I kind of wanted to save that for later. And of course, I am familiar with the Mexican death bat and Bat Squatch, but Bat Squatch kind of has its own lore. So what you will get Bat Squatch at some point. Is gonna have to be a little bit patient, but hey, I want to know what you guys thought about it. Make sure to leave a comment down below what you thought about it. What what do you think this could have been? Obviously, you probably gonna think it's a flying fox, but I want to hear what you have to say. And if you have any suggestions for any other video ideas, make sure to comment that down below. If you like the video, make sure to leave a like. If you like this type of content, hey, you're in luck. Consistent uploads, that's all I'm saying. Consistency, you're getting a lot of these. You're getting 2 of these every week, so long as I can help it. So make sure you subscribe and hit that bell as well. Once the hype feature drops, I'm confused. I don't know. That's got to be like a misinformation campaign. Okay, because I do not remember that, but when it's gonna drop, it's got to drop at some point. I'm just gonna keep looking dumb saying hype the video, but anyways, I'm not gonna keep you any longer, but I will see you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye.